All right, I think we can get started. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Whiteside. I'm a project manager here at DelDOT, and I'll be the one that's hosting this virtual public workshop for DelDOT's Cave Neck Road, Hudson, and Sweetbriar Roads intersection improvement project. We have some other members from the project team on this call as well. We have Brian Behrens, who is DelDOT's group engineer. We also have George Spadafino and Julia Stepanako, who represent our lead design consultant, GPI. So they'll be the ones who help assist in answering any questions we have during the Q&A session today, which will follow this presentation. Next slide, George. So project purpose, or the workshop purpose rather. So the purpose of the workshop, we have 4 concepts that we would like to share today, and hopefully we can receive some feedback from those attending this workshop on what they like and dislike about these concepts that we present. The reason why we have this concept workshop is because the project team would like to take your comments into consideration, which will help in selecting one of these concepts to move forward in design and ultimately be constructed. So following the presentation, we would like everyone to submit comments using the comment form that can be filled out or downloaded from our project website. In order to keep this project on schedule, we do have a deadline for those comments to be submitted by December 17th. If anyone needs help finding this comment form on the project's website, just let us know. We can certainly assist because all these comments that we will receive are greatly appreciated, and they'll be really helpful when we select an alternative. So now we can talk about the agenda. Next slide. So today's agenda, we will first have a presentation on the project and also the concepts, and then we'll follow the presentation with a live question and answer session. So just a reminder that you can provide the questions in the Q&A box throughout this presentation. The Q&A box is located at the bottom part of your screen. One note is to please not use the chat box because that's something different. So if you use that chat box, your questions most likely will not be received. So again, please use the Q&A box, not the chat box. And those questions that are submitted, the project team will probably wait to answer most of them until the Q&A session. I would also like to mention that all the workshop material will be uploaded to the project's website. So all the concepts that we discussed today can be viewed at a later time at your convenience. And again, we do strongly encourage everyone attending to fill out a comment form and provide feedback on the concepts that we present today. Next slide. So having said that, now let's get into the project location. So the project's located in Sussex County, just southeast of Milton, at the intersections of Cave Neck Road, Hudson Road, and Sweetbriar Road. So if you're looking at the map on your screen, the area highlighted in yellow is essentially the project limits. So to kind of get your bearings, north is pointing up at the top of your screen. And another way is to think about it if you're heading east on Cave Neck Road, you would soon approach Route 1, which would be to the right of your screen. As you can see from that yellow highlighted area, the roadway angles at these intersections are skewed in a way that has caused several safety concerns. We'll discuss these safety concerns in more detail as we talk about the purpose of this project through the next couple of slides. Next slide. So project need, what's the reason why we need this project? Well, the main purpose for this project is to fix the safety concerns at the Cave Neck Road, Hudson Road intersection, as well as the Cave Neck Road, Sweetbriar Road intersection. The department does have traffic studies that have shown a substantial number of reported crashes at these intersections. So these safety concerns are very well known to DelDOT, and we're now currently working on a feasible solution to this issue. And as you look at the next slide, the crash diagram, this slide emphasizes the safety concerns. This crash diagram basically shows the reported crashes at these two known intersections. So the crashes were reported in the last 4 years, from 2017 to 2021. You'll notice in this diagram that there are a substantial number of accidents in this location, particularly involving angle crashes. This is shown in the diagram by the two arrow symbols pointing at each other at a right angle. As you can see, these right angle crashes are occurring at both intersections. I would also like to mention that the angle crashes, also known as T-bone crashes, are usually the types of crashes that have potential for serious injury. These are the types of accidents that we want to focus on minimizing. If nothing's done at this location, we do predict the safety issues to get worse, especially considering all the new development coming into this area. So again, essentially the project was initiated to help fix these safety concerns. Next slide. So this slide basically summarizes the existing issues at these intersections. If nothing is done at these intersections, there will continue to be significant safety and operational concerns. Our traffic model does predict the quality of traffic flow at these two intersections to fail in the design year of 2050. So even though safety is our #1 priority for this project, we still need to address the potential for traffic capacity issues in the future, and as well as any type of congestion happening as we move forward. Also, back to the safety issues, as you notice from the crash diagram on that previous slide, 65 crashes were reported in the last 4 years. Of those crashes, 1 out of every 4 happened at night. Also, that data shows that all these accidents aren't necessarily associated with the peak travel times or actually caused by congestion. Instead, we believe the accidents are caused by 1, the poor roadway geometry, 2, the current lack of adequate sight distance at those 2 particular intersections, and 3, the current lack of lighting facilities within that area. So that's a summary of what's going on out there today. So if we can jump to the next slide, we'll always look into the ways to solve these particular issues. So again, how do we plan on solving these current issues? Well, we do have 4 concepts that we'll share today. All 4 of these concepts involve geometric changes to the Cave Neck Road, Hudson Road intersection, as well as the intersection at Cave Neck Road, Sweetbriar Road. Next slide. All of these concepts will also have similar characteristics. Many of these similarities are listed on this slide that you see right now. They all involve safety improvements. We believe each concept will provide safer conditions than what's existing. However, we do believe some concepts will be better than others from a safety perspective. So please keep that in mind, but we'll certainly talk more about that as we share each concept. Also, all concepts will propose multimodal facilities, such as shared use paths and sidewalks. This will provide more connectivity for pedestrians and cyclists to be able to navigate throughout the project limits. All concepts will propose lighting facilities for safety reasons, as well as propose facilities for drainage improvements. And then also through our traffic model, future traffic operations have been shown to work well for all concepts. This is another way of saying that the congestion in this area will improve basically to about the same degree for all of the considered concepts. So now let's get into the concept displays. So this is concept 1. This is known as the Elongated Peanut Roundabout. It involves 2 roundabouts spaced about 425 feet apart, which is a very similar intersection spacing that is currently existing today. So for this concept, we did try to stay on the existing alignment the best we can. The proposed roadway alignment for Hudson Road and Cave Neck Road is essentially the same alignment as it is today. But there is a minor change to the Hudson alignment that basically would provide just a little bit more spacing between the intersections. This essentially helps from a safety and operational perspective. So you'll notice that due to that realignment, there'll be some areas of existing pavement that will be removed. This is mentioned in the legend that's located at the top right corner of the display. And it's also shown in the green hatching areas in that segment of Sweetbriar Road that we are realigning. Also, this concept can accommodate large trucks, which will essentially use that truck apron if these big trucks need to make some type of right turning movement. The project team basically designed not only this concept, but all concepts to allow a WB67 vehicle to navigate through the intersections. A WB67 is equivalent to an interstate tractor trailer, which typically involves a trailer that's about 53 feet long. So this is something that, you know, we anticipate being one of the biggest vehicles out there that would be utilizing these two intersections. The concept also proposes shared use paths and sidewalks. This is shown in the concept with the orange colored shapes that are basically adjacent to the roadway, which also extend around the two roundabouts. So as I mentioned before, these sidewalks and shared use paths are going to provide more connectivity for pedestrians, cyclists, and any type of multimodal user to navigate through these intersections. And then also from a cost perspective, this concept is anticipated to be the least expensive from a combined right-of-way and construction cost. I would also like to mention that each concept that is shown today will all have significant right-of-way impacts, unfortunately. You'll notice some parcels will have a circled label TA or TAR. The TA stands for total acquisition, and the TAR stands for the total acquisition with a relocation. So as I said, you know, you'll see these symbols on each concept where we are anticipating to propose that type of acquisition for that particular property. So now we can move on to concept 2. These two concepts, or this concept basically consists of two conventional roundabouts that are spaced about 780 feet apart. This significantly increases the intersection spacing when compared to what's out there today. Also, you know, it's much more intersection spacing than what we just saw compared to concept 1. Again, Cave Neck Road and Hudson Road remain on their existing alignments, just like what is shown in concept 1. But there is a major realignment to the Sweetbriar Road segment. This is due to safer intersection spacing that's being proposed. Also due to the concept's new realignment of Sweetbriar, a cul-de-sac is being proposed to provide safer access to the 4 existing homes that are currently along the segment of Sweetbriar that will be realigned. Another item is that this concept can also accommodate large trucks, very similar to concept 1. And it also provides a shared use path and sidewalk, which is also similar to concept 1. In regards to right-of-way impacts, this concept has the least amount of relocations when compared to the other concepts that we'll show today. So when comparing concept 1 with concept 2, there are a lot of similarities, but please be aware that there are distinct differences when comparing these two options. So now we can move to concept 3. So concept 3 is one large 5-legged roundabout that's located basically between the 2 existing intersections. The design team did their best to utilize the existing vacant triangular area that's in between these 2 intersections, basically to try and minimize the impacts. Unfortunately, there's still a few parcels that are anticipated to be total acquisitions, which again is shown in the display with a TA or a TAR symbol. And then in regards to accommodating for large trucks and providing multimodal facilities, this concept is very similar to the other concepts as it will be designed for a WB 67, and sidewalks and shared use paths will also go along and extend around the roundabout. And now we can move to concept 4. So this is the last concept that we will present tonight. This concept consists of 2 conventional signalized intersections, which will include dedicated turn lanes on each approach. In this concept, Hudson Road and Cave Neck Road remain on the same alignment, very similar to the other concepts that we saw, but Sweetbriar Road will be realigned to approach Cave Neck Road at a 90-degree angle at that T intersection to the right of your screen. So due to the realignment of Sweetbriar, a service road will be provided to allow access to the remaining properties along Sweetbriar. This service road is very similar to what was shown in concept 2. And then again, just like all the other concepts, we are accommodating for large trucks, and we are providing multimodal facilities. The large truck would be the WB 67, and the multimodal facilities would be sidewalks and shared use paths, extending the entire length of the project. I do want to mention one significant note about this concept, that it does appear to be most impactful from a cost and relocation perspective. As you compare these 4 concepts, you can see that there are a lot more TAR symbols, meaning total acquisitions with relocations on this concept when you compare it to the others. Also, another pretty important note is that this concept doesn't necessarily address the problem that's concerning the angle crashes, as well as the roundabout options would. The reason why we have 3 of the 4 concepts involving roundabouts is because it has been historically shown that roundabouts have a better chance of reducing the severity of crashes, especially when compared to a signalized intersection. So that's certainly something to think about when providing comments and comparing the roundabout concepts to the signalized intersection concept. So that was the last concept, as I mentioned. So we'll now talk a little bit about the project's funding and schedule. So one exciting thing about this project is that we're going to be able to deliver it faster than we could if we went through our typical funding process. So this project will be the first project that is funded under the Fast Track program. FAST stands for Funding Accelerating Safety in Transportation. It's essentially a program where Sussex County and DelDOT collaborate to discuss what safety projects should be expedited, mainly because they're not forthcoming in the Capital Transportation Program, also known as our typical funding process, the CTP. So essentially how the funding works is that Sussex County provides the funding up front, the funding that's needed for the project, and then DelDOT reimburses the county at a later time after the project is complete. This is the main reason why DelDOT can begin this design for this project much sooner than we initially thought, which ultimately allows for construction to begin about 4 years earlier than what was originally anticipated and scheduled. Which is, a great thing for the transportation network in this area. So now we can talk about the project schedule. So again, as I mentioned, the comment period ends on December 17th. This is the comment period to provide feedback on the 4 concepts that I just presented today. This will allow us to stay on schedule to select a preferred alternative by early next year. And we'll continue through our design process within the next couple of years, where we'll have right-of-way acquisition scheduled to begin in the fall of 2022. And then ultimately our project's engineering design is expected to be complete by early 2024. Once we have that engineering design complete and, we have the right of way acquired, we will most likely begin utility relocations, which should occur in the spring of 2024. These relocations will specifically involve the relocation of the impacted utility poles. And then having said that, with staying on schedule with all those milestones, this will basically set up our ultimate goal to have construction start in the fall of 2024. I would also quickly like to mention that if there is any change to our schedule due to some unforeseen reason or an unexpected circumstance, we'll certainly provide schedule updates through our project website. So that basically concludes our presentation today. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join this workshop. We can now begin answering any questions that you provided within the Q&A box. And Brian, I'll turn it over to you to see what's in there.
Thanks, Mark. Before we get started with the Q&A, I just want to take a second to acknowledge that Representative Steve Smick is also with us, and wanted to open that up to you, Representative. Are there any words that you would like to say? If not, no problem. You can raise your hand, I guess, through the bottom of the screen if that's something you would want to do, or use the Q&A or chat to let us know. And if not, we will move right into the questions. So we'll just go down the line here, and for anyone who's interested in typing in the questions, just please do so, and we will be sure to get to it. First question is, concept one seems to require taking some land from private parcels along the roadways. How will this be accomplished? So I'm going to group that actually with the second question, which is of a similar nature. It's, how does TAR calculate compensation for homeowners impacted by the changes? So Mark, if you want to take a stab at that. And we also have some folks from our real estate section that may be able to answer that.
Yeah, certainly, Brian. So I just want to emphasize that all concepts are going to have some type of strip takes for private parcels. And the way we come up with the acquisition areas is we do a thorough design, typically from a semi-final construction plan standpoint. We believe that we're pretty confident in what right-of-way we're going to need to acquire. So around that point, we will, provide right-of-way plans that would be finalized through our real estate section. Once we have those right-of-way plans finalized, our real estate section would essentially approach the property owners to start negotiations. And I think, Terry, I can turn it over to you to get more involved in that process, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. Thank you, Mark. This is Terry Lawson. I'm a real estate right-of-way agent with the department. So what we do essentially is we would establish compensation through the just compensation process. So Federal Highway certainly is our ultimate, governing agency with us. So we have to certainly abide by Federal Highways laws and regulations. And with that being said, there is a threshold to the compensation. So if it's under a certain amount, that's typically 10,000. Some projects we have 25,000. But if our internal appraisal staff feels as though the compensation is going to be over a certain amount, then we would have a third party outside appraiser appraise the needs for the project. So they would take the plan set that would be in place, and then we would assign that to an outside third-party appraiser. So that's an unbiased opinion. If it was under the 10,000 threshold, say it was like 5 feet, 5 by 20, a smaller area, and we thought the compensation would be less, we would do that in-house. We certainly do have in-house appraisers that work for the department. So we would have that either justified in-house, or we would have that done by outside real estate appraisers appraiser. And then we would, make an offer through our just compensation offer packet, and we would work with the owner in just trying to secure the needs for the project. So all owners are provided a copy of the appraisal. It's not something that we keep. We certainly provide that to you so you can see how everything was done in coordination to how we receive the just compensation. So we do certainly pay for the area of acquisition, any easement areas, if there's trees or wells or septics or anything of that nature. Those are typically done in addition to. And then we have the relocation process, of course, for those that are going to be relocated on the project. If there will be, I think in all the concepts there may be at least one, correct, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, there will be at least one.
Yeah. So we do have the relocation process. That is a federal the federal relocation program, and you would be assigned an agent that would work directly with you. And there's additional benefits that you would receive with that. Moving costs. You would get something called a replacement housing payment. Your one-time fees in your new property. So we would work directly more on a one-on-one basis with you on that.
Yeah, and then just to add, Terry, as we move further into design and, we pick a selected alternative, and we are pretty confident on the properties that would require a full acquisition or a relocation. We would certainly, a design team would certainly make every effort to meet with you prior to our final right-of-way plan submittal. So, once we know which properties we are significantly impacting, you should be hearing from the project team, myself, prior to any real estate agent, coming to your house and starting the negotiations.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we like to sit down and go over the program a little more in depth with you. So, you're understanding the program a little bit more because it is so involved. So I hope that answers that.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah,
Mark,
you're welcome.
Appreciate that. All right, we'll keep going here. So next question is, will the center islands of the roundabouts have plantings? Seeing across the roundabout to the opposite side can present an unnecessary distraction to drivers. Drivers need to be focused on looking for pedestrians, bike riders, and other drivers whose path they will cross rather than what is happening on the other side of the roundabout. Mark, if you want to take that, or I can answer, up to you.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. It's essentially up to, the county and the town of what they would like to provide in there. I mean, as long as it's something that the engineering team deems safe from an obstruction standpoint for, if vehicles hit it or so forth. But that is something that we can definitely coordinate with the town and county. If there is something particular that you would like inside that island. The question would come down to maintaining it, who would maintain it and so forth. But I mean, those are discussions that, we'll have further along down the road. Brian, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Sure. So it's a great question. And, we have a lot of roundabouts that are coming, especially in this area, Milton and Lewis, in the next few years with a lot of the other projects, near Route 1 and 5 Points area. And one of the constant discussions that we have is what should be in the center of those. And sometimes depending on who we're talking to, it's, there's a desire to have that be grass, low maintenance type of grass, or even concrete, for maintenance purposes, to not have someone have to go into the center of that roundabout to mow that, 2 or 3 times a year. So it really kind of depends. It's a little bit project specific. It also depends what else is in the area. If there are, if there's a desire, like Mark said, for it comes down to the maintenance. If it's something that DelDOT is going to maintain, it's likely to be either grass or concrete. If it's something that a third party nonprofit we're interested in, which we do have those scenarios throughout the state, then I think we're open to certain types of plantings. There is height restrictions. I think it's 2 or 3 feet. It's basically, you don't want it above the sight line. And we would have to follow up on that. What we don't want in there are things that can be struck that can cause injury, such as, poles or trees or things that would take away from the obvious improvements that we're trying to make out here, which is to help solve some of the crash problems. Because inevitably it does happen where people do go through these roundabouts, just like they go through signalized intersections and stop signs. So we don't want something in there that can cause harm. But I think that's not a hard no. It's just we'll have to see, and to see if there's what kind of interest is out there. So good question. Thank you. The next question that we have is, can we quickly go over the 4 options? We certainly can. And I think we have our slideshow going on in the background. This is being recorded, will be posted to our DelDOT YouTube channel as well as our project website. So they will always be on there. But we will also, once we get through the questions, we will have this running in the background, while others are, maybe still digesting the information and thinking of the question that they want to ask. So we will do that in a few moments. So I will keep that question up there so we don't forget. Next question is there a plan to ensure that this project is complete before the Route 1 and Cave Neck project begins? Mark, do you want to take that one?
So Brian, when is the Route 1 Cave Neck project
So they are in
anticipated?
similar timeframes. I don't know specifically what their targets are for beginning construction. And both are still, this is obviously very early in design where we don't even know exactly what we're going to build yet. They, I think, have a selected alternative for that project, but it's not, I don't believe it's in the right-of-way acquisition phase yet. So it's still years away as we are. And it's obviously, it's being delivered out of the same group here in DelDOT, different consulting firms, but we will need to coordinate with that design team so that we're not having overlapping detours or sending in over, too much traffic down one particular roadway. That's something that we would do anyway, but we will make a point of it to be sure that we do that. First thing is to figure out what we want to build, and then we will figure out how to build it. But another good question. Next question is, will there be any temporary fixes to the safety concerns from now until the project completion? So I'll take that one, Mark. It's hard to say because we did do some temporary things, short-term improvements with the striping to convert Sweetbriar Road in the Triangle area in the past. That did help. But beyond that, one of the things that we could potentially look at are lighting, because we see that as one of the issues out there. But as far as geometric changes, which is what we believe are required out here, those can't really move any faster than what we're talking about doing now. But always something that we can look into as far as tree clearing to improve the sight distance, which we are looking into actually. And then the lighting we can look into as well. Mark or George, anything you want to add to that?
No, Brian, I think you nailed it on the head there.
Yep.
To what extent is this project motivated by anticipated increased traffic flows from Ryan/Compass Point, which is 277 units apparently as it grows? So I may look at Mark or Julia here to help answer that from a traffic perspective, what we included in our analyses up to this point.
Yeah, I'll quickly jump first, Brian. So we do have a particular design here that our traffic analysis tries to design for, and that design year is 2050. So we do know what particular developments are coming on within that area. We know it's up and coming from a development standpoint from Compass Point and the other new subdivisions within that area. So that's definitely taken into consideration. Julie, I'll turn it over to you to get a little bit into the specifics of what you've done with the traffic model or the traffic analysis to show that the level of service or the quality of traffic flow in the year 2050 should be adequate.
Sure, thanks, Mark. So the project isn't necessarily, I won't say motivated by the increased traffic, it's really safety. But when we do our traffic analysis, we do a background growth rate and we do a development growth rate. So we've accounted for these 277 units in our traffic analysis, and we're still showing great levels of service, really with all the alternatives. So it's certainly going to, any of the alternatives that are selected are certainly that move forward into design are certainly going to be able to handle traffic at least through the year 2050. I hope that answers the question a little bit better or more.
Okay, thanks. And we have just one more question so far. So that question is just to clarify, under the current timeline, we can expect 65 more crashes before construction starts. So I appreciate the comment, and I understand the concern out here. We are doing everything that we can, and I think it's a great initiative that that Sussex County and DelDOT have entered into here with the collaboration to fund this project sooner than it would have been. As Mark mentioned, we wouldn't have started design on this project for another 4 years, basically. So this workshop tonight would have been 4 years away. So that's a good thing that we're working on it and looking to help solve a problem out there. So thank you for the comment. And one more question, a couple questions coming in now. Thanks. So what are the criteria for selecting an option? Public input, environmental impact, federal state regs, comparative safety advantage. What is the selection process going forward? Mark, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's basically everything you just mentioned. So, I mean, we will look at the pros and cons of each concept. We certainly want to meet our purpose of need, which is, you know, it's a safety project. Safety is the #1 concern. We also want to definitely take into consideration any comments that are either provided from the public and anyone attending this workshop, because it's greatly appreciated. You guys, for the most part, would probably drive down these roads more frequently than I do, and you know, you guys might see things that sometimes the department doesn't. So you know, please submit your comments. We encourage you to submit your comments. But yeah, every type of item that was mentioned within that, we do weigh that within our criteria.
Thanks, Mark. Next comment is, I perceive a lot of pushback from the motoring public regarding roundabouts in general. Does DelDOT think there is a need for any sort of education or outreach program? So I could take that one, Mark. So it's a good question. We do have a lot of roundabouts that are in design and about to be in construction in the next few years, as I mentioned earlier. I think that sort of education will happen organically as motorists start to use them more. But I don't disagree that an education or an outreach that's not a bad thing. We do have several, I think, tutorials that our websites have, and I think that we've pushed those out via social media as well. But always a good idea to have more education and outreach. So thank you for the comment, and that's it. So we will, there currently aren't any more open questions that have not been answered either live or just directly in the Q&A. George or Julia, would you be able to just circle back through the presentation, or at least click through the concepts 1 through 4 while maybe some more questions are coming in? And we'll be here, so, certainly here, the workshop is not over yet. So if you think of something, please type it in. Next question is, why not have a mix of a roundabout at Hudson and Cave Neck and a signal at Sweetbriar? Use the roundabout from one of the first options and then the signal from option 4. So Mark, do you want to take that one? Because we did consider that early on.
Yeah, we did, Brian. One thing that I certainly remember from that is I believe that there was more impacts from the signal in that area when you have that relocation of Sweetbriar. I mean, essentially the Cave Neck Road and Hudson Road alignments we want to remain existing. And that's essentially as shown on all concepts except for concept 3, which was the larger roundabout, just because we had to approach the larger roundabout at a different angle. But as far as one thing that I do remember was having the signalized intersection at, the Sweetbriar Cave Neck. One, is it even warranted from a traffic standpoint, but 2, it also had additional right-of-way impacts.
Yeah, thanks. Just to add on to that, we did look into those types of scenarios where, in addition to just stop controls, I believe, and one of the things that the design team felt was important was, some of the contributing factors out here are driver expectancy and comfort and the uncertainty, like some drivers waiting for gaps, especially on the approaches to Cave Neck Road. So at Hudson and Sweetbriar on, north and south. And that's only going to get worse if we do nothing. And sometimes the drivers will, those gaps are going to get fewer and shorter, and the comfort level, people will get more brave basically with those smaller gaps. So that's what we're afraid of. Those accidents, those angle crashes that we see will keep happening and will continue to get worse and more frequent. So where I'm going with that is that the thinking is that if it's 2 roundabouts or 2 signals, that expectation is a little more clear for the motorist and the cyclists and the pedestrian, rather than having 1 roundabout and 1 signal, or 1 roundabout and 1 stop sign, 1 signal, or any kind of combo like that. So I hope that answers your question.
Just add one thing to that, for people to be aware. A lot of times when you have a signal and a roundabout close together, if there's delays at signal and there's queuing that goes back to the roundabout, it becomes almost like you're gridlocking the roundabout, and the roundabout doesn't work properly anymore. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to mix and match these different types of improvements, is how close are they spaced.
Thanks, Julia. Okay, another question is, do the homeowners that are impacted with taking the property have any say in which one is the concept? So, so you have a say, absolutely, just as much as anyone else. And as Mark mentioned earlier, all of these concepts carry with them significant property impacts, and there's unfortunately that's what we're looking at with trying to fix this intersection. Mark or George, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, Brian, I mean, we'll certainly take into consideration the comments that, are provided from those property owners. We'll certainly do everything we can, if the ultimate selection does impact your property, to keep you notified, be as transparent as possible, and, make it as easy for you as it can be. I know it's going to be difficult, but make it as easy for you as it can be through our acquisition process.
George, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I just want to emphasize is one thing when we're in design, like all DelDOT projects, we always work with the property owners to try to minimize impacts as much as possible to the property owner. And, you know, certainly as part of this process, we take into consideration like all comments, you know, from all residents.
Thanks, George and Mark. Next question is, will the bike lane be extended from these intersections to meet the existing bike lane that is further east on Cave Neck Road? So I'm not sure how far east you're referring to. So the current plan with all of these concepts is to basically tie the through lanes and the shoulders back into what's existing on Cave Neck Road, and the path, the shared use path, and the would then basically connect to those shoulders to allow the cyclists to continue to use the shoulder, which can be a bike lane, or is a bike lane. So okay, so the comment is near Beulah Boulevard. Can Mark or George look that up and let? I think that's likely outside of the project limits. So if that's the case, what you see here in the orange kind of color would connect with that shoulder, and then if it were a bicyclist wanting to use that facility, they would use the shoulder until they get to that next bike lane. I will say that once we get into a design, once we pick an alternative and get into the design, we do look at those types of connections if it's feasible, or or just makes sense to just extend that limit, a couple 100 feet to make a connection to an existing path or an existing bike lane. Then we usually do it, but we do have to end the project somewhere. So along Sweetbriar, for example, we are connecting to the shared use path that's leading to the school, or as part of the neighborhood. So that's what's shown in blue there. So in situations like that, we do try to make a connection. So I don't know if our team has had a chance to look at that, where that road is.
I
Connect to.
think that road is east on Cave Neck Road, and it's part of that subdivision at Vincent Village. Which is, it's a little bit outside of our project limits. But if it all depends on the type of right of way that would need to be acquired to extend that path to an existing path at that subdivision. We try to do our best to provide the connectivity for all these developments, so they'll be able to easily navigate through the intersection and get to point A to point B efficiently and safely. So if there are shared use paths or sidewalks from these surrounding developments, we do see a pretty high likelihood that we'll try to tie into them if the existing constraints allow it.
Thanks, Mark. Next question is, will the addition of a roundabout or two remove the right of way from Cave Neck Road, causing Cave Neck Road traffic to stop at one or two roundabouts where today no stop is required? So they will yield in the roundabout scenarios. They would yield to traffic to their left, to motorists coming in to enter the roundabout, and then they would have the right of way, so you would not have to stop to leave the roundabout. So it would be a change. Currently today, Cave Neck Road has no stop control or signal to stop traffic, but that is contributing to the crashes that we see out there. So part of the problem that we see is that the delay, the stacking on Hudson Road and Sweetbriar Road approaching Cave Neck Road leads to people trying to find gaps in that traffic, which is contributing to those right angle T-bone type of crashes. And when we project that out to the design year, that stacking gets really bad. And people, we think, will wait for smaller gaps and try to get out in an unsafe manner. So you're correct. If we do nothing, that Cave Neck Road would not have anything, even in 2050. It would just be a free flow movement. But then we're negatively affecting Hudson Road and Sweetbriar Road even more. So the roundabouts that we have shown and the signals that we show. So a signal would actually introduce a stop on Cave Neck Road, rather than a roundabout. If no one's in the roundabout, you can just enter the roundabout. Whereas a signal, you would obviously have to stop at a 2 red lights potentially. But our traffic analyses, our level of service that's projected for all of these concepts are A and B basically, which is close to free flow movement in the design year. So we don't expect there to be operational problems with any of these concepts. Is that fair to say, Julia?
That's correct.
Thanks. Next question is for option 3. Are there 2 ways to get to Cave Neck eastbound from Sweetbriar? Also from Cave Neck eastbound to Hudson southwestbound. So let's, Mark, if you want to take that one on. So Cave Neck eastbound from Sweetbriar. If you want to hover over, if you can hover over that movement, George, yeah, that'd be great.
So you would just, I mean, if you're going eastbound on the Cave Neck, if you're heading from eastbound, you would just use Sweetbriar Road. You would just go through basically that small bypass lane, that right turn lane right there where that cursor is moving. If it was a bigger vehicle making that turn, they would utilize that truck apron that's in that lighter shaded gray area. But it would be a fairly simple movement from a passenger car perspective. It's as simple as almost, it could potentially be free flowing. That's one good thing about, you know, having a roundabout versus signal is sometimes you never have to stop. So it'd still be an easy movement, and it also will accommodate larger vehicles if necessary.
And then the other movement is eastbound Cave Neck Road onto Hudson southwest. So the other right turn movement, basically. Other way, George, I think from Cave Neck onto Hudson. From the left side, I think the comment is from the left. Yeah, there it is. Yep.
Yeah, so it's essentially the exact same thing, same type of turning movement. You would use that right turn lane, that bypass lane, before you actually enter inside the roundabout. And again, it can accommodate for larger vehicles if necessary by utilizing that truck apron, which is shaded in the light gray.
Thank you. The next comment is concept 3 similar to the circle in Georgetown in concept? So no, not really at all, actually. So I don't know the size of the Georgetown circle off the top of my head. I think that we probably can measure that if someone from our design team could just do that quickly from like Google Earth. But this is not that big. And it's also designed as a modern roundabout, whereas the circle in Georgetown is a bit more of a traffic circle, basically, where there's parking and there's different access points. It does function like a roundabout, you know, I'll give you that once you're in there, you need to yield to pedestrians who may be crossing, but you can exit really without yielding. But the modern roundabout here, they're smaller. We want you to go slower. They're designed so that you can't really go that fast within them. And then there's some other key differences between that and, you know, a traffic circle where you're, you know, yielding to traffic. If you're in the traffic circle, you're yielding and stopping, and that's not the case in a modern roundabout where you have the right of way. George or Julia or Mark, anything you would want to add to that?
No, Brian, I think you said it very well. One quick thing is that the Georgetown roundabout's about 200-foot diameter. But you know, we're talking about the concept 3. That's a smaller diameter. I believe that's about 180 feet, so slightly smaller, and it functions differently. So, well, Brian, what you said was absolutely correct, and that it is a little bit of a smaller size.
For the roundabout concepts, if you're on a bike, it looks like you wouldn't be using the roundabout, but rather outlining the tentacles and crossing the street several times. Is that correct? Or would bikes enter the roundabout with motor vehicles? So that's a great question. So one of the reasons that but the answer is kind of both. So if you're on a bike and you're on the shoulder on Cave Neck Road, outside of this project limit, you could stay in the travel lane. If you encounter a roundabout somewhere else in the state that doesn't have shared use paths outside of the roundabout, you are supposed to use the travel lane, the through lane, to enter the roundabout, and vehicles should be yielding to you. Or I'm sorry, you should be yielding to vehicles before you enter the roundabout. But we are providing that shared use path to get bicyclists and pedestrians out of the footprint of the roundabout if they felt more comfortable doing that, because there are different types of riders, some more recreational, some more as a mode of transportation. And so we are trying to accommodate both with these concepts. And really the key there is because we have the trail network that actually is within the project limits here. So I believe it's the American Discovery Trail, which travels along Cave Neck Road and then down Sweetbriar, trying to accommodate that for the recreational user who may want to just be on a shared use path and not within the road. But if you are using that shared use path and it's your desire to remain on the shared use path, you would have to use the crosswalks at the roundabout. How many lanes will Cave Neck Road be? We are not proposing to widen Cave Neck Road. It would still be one lane in each direction. Next question is, concept 3 doesn't show access to one of our properties and not marked TA. Who do we speak to about this? So if you would send an email to us with that concern, it was, I will type a response back to you in here. Thank you for the comment. We have another question. What will happen with the 50+ mph speed limit on Cave Neck Road? And will there be clear signs of approaching a roundabout? Mark, do you want to take that one?
Yes. So as you're approaching the roundabout, there will certainly be, signs to distinguish, that you're approaching that roundabout. For the signage, we certainly follow, the standards per AASHTO and as well as DelDOT. But as you're approaching the roundabout, you will have to reduce your speed. I believe the speed is 25 mph through the roundabout, which is obviously a lot less than 50. So those types of signage and warning signs will be on each approach as you travel into that roundabout. George, I don't know if you want to add anything as far as the design speed of going into the roundabout versus coming out.
Yeah, all of the legs are designed for 25 to 30 miles an hour design speed entering the roundabout. And that's typical for roundabouts. And there'll be plenty of warning signs alerting everyone like you're approaching a roundabout and that the speed is reduced entering the roundabout.
Next question we have is, do you expect a high volume of tractor trailer traffic here? I think we have that, Mark. We have that percentage.
I think it's 11%, right, George? I know it's
Yeah,
double.
it's I believe it's 10. It's 10% truck traffic, which is significant.
Which is significant, hence why we did design these intersections again to accommodate these larger vehicles.
So we don't currently have any more open questions. The design team will be here if you think of any. So I will go on mute and turn off our video, but please, as long as we have attendees, we will be here. All right, we have another question. So for option 3, if George, you could go to option 3. If traveling from Sweetbriar to Hudson eastbound, but accidentally got into the outer arc to Cave Neck Road eastbound, would there be somewhere to make a U-turn to get back to this circle? So let me see if we follow you here. So if you're traveling from Sweetbriar to go, I'm going to say, you said Hudson eastbound. So I'm going to go, you're traveling from Sweetbriar to go north, I guess. Hudson east, it's like sort of east, but almost more north. But you accidentally turned the right that was brought up before to go onto Cave Neck Road eastbound. Would there be somewhere to make a U-turn? So not as part of the project. That wouldn't be really any different as if you made that, as if you accidentally did that today. You know, if you were approaching from Sweetbriar and made a right turn onto Cave Neck, you would have to figure out how to get back to Hudson somehow. So that won't be any different. If you missed the turn for Hudson Road, but stayed within the roundabout path, you could just keep going in the roundabout until you got back to Hudson. So if that was your question, you can just stay within the roundabout. You don't have to exit. But so hope that answers your question. Can we hover over concept 1 for a few moments? Someone would like to just take a screenshot.
And I know Brian's you already mentioned this, but again, this workshop material will be on the project website, hopefully tomorrow, but definitely sometime this week. So you'll be able to, you know, print, share, do whatever you want with those the 4 concepts. And, you know, again, please provide comments, which are due by December 17th.
I'm gonna hope that you got your screenshot. Can we hover over the accident diagram for a few moments? Someone else would like to view that quickly. And as Mark said, this will all be on our website and DelDOT YouTube soon, if you missed it. So one of the questions is the collision or the numbers on the crash display in sequence, which I believe they are. If George or Julia could chime in there.
Yes, they are. Each color represents a different year, and then they're numbered according to chronologically how the crashes occurred in that year. So yellow is 2017, I think. And then it goes to the different colors from there.
Thanks. Next question is, when will the concept be decided? Mark, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so the concept will hopefully be decided by early next year. Hence why we would like all the comments due by December 17th, because we want to take those into consideration. So we should have a preferred alternative, a preferred concept early next year.
Thanks, Mark. So we don't have any more open questions. Workshop is scheduled to go to 5:30 unless there are no more attendees and no more questions. But as long as you all are still here and thinking of your questions, we will be here until 5:30. I'm going to go back on mute. But please let us know if you have any more questions. Thanks. Okay, we have another question. Will the homeowners have any say on the choice of the concept chosen? Since looking at the concepts, why not do the concept with the least impact on the homeowners affected by taking their property? Will this be taken into consideration, and who will be making the decision? So thanks for the comment and the question. So the reason that we have a workshop like tonight, which we call a concepts workshop, is because there are different solutions to this problem. There are different ways that we can go with this. The decision makers are the project team, the people who are presenting to you tonight. And we want to hear some feedback from the community because these options are different and they affect different people. They all have significant impacts to residences out here. And we want to be sure that we're being upfront with everybody and to show that we've thought carefully about the right way to fix this. So certainly the homeowners have a say as much as anyone else and what they want to see done out here. The project team takes all of that into consideration, as well as the cost, the difficulty it may in to build them, environmental impacts. They all play a role in what gets selected. But a big piece of it is the community feedback that we hear from tonight and in the next month from comments that will come in. So Mark or George, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think.
Brian, I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
go
Mark.
ahead, George.
No, I think you answered that pretty well, Brian. I mean, you know, DelDOT's always taken into comments into consideration. And, you know, this is part of the process, having this workshop and letting people comment and voice their concerns and, you know, say what they like and dislike with each concept. So,
Thanks, George.
Yep.
Yeah, and as what Brian said, I mean, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. You know, we're very early in design, no matter what concept we choose. As George mentioned before, you know, we'll do our best to try to minimize the right-of-way impacts on the concept that we do choose, but there will be significant impacts to some properties, and you know, we're going to let you know sooner rather than later if that was the case. And then again, we'll be as transparent as can be.
Thanks, Mark. Just wanted to hop back on and let everyone know that the Zoom session will end automatically at 5:30. We don't have any more presentation material planned, but we are here to answer any more questions. But if there are no more questions, please feel free to log off or hang with us to see if there are any other questions that you might be interested in. Thanks. So we have another question. The question is, when will you start contacting landowners, and will there be another Zoom meeting? So we, as Mark alluded to, we'll likely select an alternative just after the new year, once the comment period has ended and the project team has been able to gather that feedback and discuss. Once we have that alternative, we will likely go right into the design process to maintain our commitments with the fast track funding. And then we'll have a public workshop with that selected alternative once the design is a little bit further along and we can answer questions about how we're going to build it, when the detours will be in place, what the detour routes will be, things of that nature. So don't know if that'll be a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting. That will probably largely depend on COVID and whether we're still doing a lot of virtual types of meetings just as an agency, or whether we're back to in-person types of settings. And then contacting landowners. So once we have that preferred alternative and that selected concept, we can meet with anybody to talk about it really at any time. And we do usually reach out with the project development process, and certainly with whatever way that we go with the ones that have total acquisitions and relocations, we usually start that conversation early on. But we don't anticipate to have our final right-of-way plan until about a year from now, in the fall of 22. I think I have that right, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. And then that's when our real estate team would start their appraisals and offers and things of that nature. But the conversation with the homeowners begins, is really kind of ongoing throughout the design process once we have that selected alternative. So hope that answers your question. I just want to pop in and remind everybody that the Zoom session will end at 5:30. It's 5:20 right now, so we have about 10 minutes left before it will stop. We don't have any more open questions, and we will let the presentation run in the background as we've been doing, but just want to remind everyone who's still in attendance that the presentation and workshop will end in about 10 minutes. Thanks.
Okay, it's about 5:30, so we will be ending this Zoom session. On behalf of DelDOT, I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join in today and ask the questions. If you do think of some other questions, please feel free to email me directly. My email is mark.whiteside@delaware.gov. And also, please fill out the comment form if you haven't already done so. It's truly appreciated. So with that, thanks again for attending, and have a good night.